This is part two of our interview with Judge Mary Jane Trapp, who's running for the Ohio Supreme Court. And we were talking about your law school experience, and we were talking about taking the bar. When you take the bar exam, how long does it take before they give you the results?
Well, I took it in the February class because I went through law school in 2.5 years because I did summers. So I took the February exam and found out in May. So it was actually nice to have passed the bar, been sworn in, and go back to my graduation as a licensed attorney. Normally, you take the bar exam at the end of July and you find out in November.
After you took the exam, did you feel like you had passed?
I felt very, very confident, but you know, as time goes on, you start getting worried, and the night before, you can't sleep because you know the bar exam results are coming out the next day. But it was very nice to see your name there, and that part of your career is you're moving on to the next part of your career.
Let's talk about that next part of your career. What was it?
Well, I had, in law school, I also clerked. I clerked for a small law firm in downtown Cleveland, and then moved over to another smaller law firm and did work for that firm, primarily commercial litigation at the municipal court level and some common pleas court work, and of course I was doing appellate work for the firm as well. So I was there for about 5 or 6 years. That's how I met my husband, because my husband was doing trial work for them and I was doing some trial work for them, but it was pretty tough for a woman to get in the courtroom in those days. And I started working on one big case with my soon-to-be husband, and we decided to have an ultimate partnership and get married and practice law together. So we practiced together in a mom-and-pop law firm doing general civil and criminal work, trial and appellate work. I worked with him for 20 out of the 25 years that I practiced law before I went on the bench.
Let's talk about those days. Do you remember your first trial in front of a judge?
Yes, I do.
What was it like?
It was scary. It was before and I won't name him, one of the more scary federal judges. And
so your first case in court was a federal
case,
which
right.
Makes it twice as
right. I was defending someone on a housing discrimination case, and this gentleman was an immigrant, and he didn't quite understand the laws here in the United States about discrimination, and he also had a hearing problem and a sight problem, and so sometimes when he was on the witness stand and he was being cross-examined by the plaintiff's attorney, and he heard a question from the judge. He thought it was the plaintiff's attorney who he didn't like too much, and he would say a few choice words, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the federal marshals are going to be coming to take us both out of here. I got through the case. The judge was a very difficult and demanding judge. I knew we were going to lose the case, but it was very good training.
Just for a point of reference, for those who might be listening to this who don't know, federal judgeship is appointed by the President of the United States as a lifetime appointment.
As a lifetime appointment. That's
so
correct.
If your hearing goes bad and your eyes go bad, it really doesn't make a difference as long as you want to sit there.
No. But it was my client whose hearing was bad and his eyes were bad, and he didn't know whether it was the judge.
Oh, it was your client?
Yeah, because he thought he was saying something nasty to the opposing attorney. He was actually saying something nasty to the judge, who was someone that you don't say anything nasty to.
What's it like when you have a client that you're fighting for that you know is going to lose the case?
Well, a lot of people ask that question, especially in a criminal context, and I did a fair amount of criminal work. Everyone has a right to a defense, and especially in the criminal arena, I mean, the basis of our law in the United States is that we'd rather set a guilty person free than convict an innocent person and send them to jail. So they have a right to a defense, they have a right to due process. And I think it was a very good lesson for my immigrant client to see, one, to learn in a very difficult way that you can't discriminate when you're renting your properties out to people. But he also learned that the system is fair. He got his day in court. He got his say. I helped him maneuver through that system. And at the end, I think while he wasn't happy that he lost, he was satisfied that he got his day in court and due process.
Tell us about your current job.
My current job I absolutely love. Being a Court of Appeals judge is one of the greatest jobs in the world because it enables me to take the skills that I developed as over 25 years of practicing law, of taking a file, and usually my cases, when I was in practice, were referred from other attorneys because there are attorneys that don't like to go into court. So they'll take a case to a certain point and say, this has got to go to court, so they'd hand it to me. I get a box, sometimes boxes of materials. You work through it, you prepare the case, you try it. It's similar to what I do as a Court of Appeals judge because we review all of the cases that come up from the trial court. If you don't like what happens in a trial court, you get one shot, you can take it to the Court of Appeals. So we get a box, and it's the entire court file from the trial court, all of the documents, and we get a transcript if there was a hearing or a trial, so we can read the transcript to see what happened. And then the attorneys file their legal briefs where they argue the law and the facts, and either the trial court judge got it right or the trial court judge got it wrong. And we can take our time to look through it and make sure that someone did get a fair hearing. We're an error court, so what we're looking for is were the rules followed, was the law followed, and then you write an opinion. So it takes, and you research the law. The attorneys give you the law, but then you also research it independently. So it takes all the things that I love to do, research, writing, and puts it together in one great job.
Do you ever get a case where you're looking at the law, obviously, whether or not for errors in the courtroom, for whether an appeal was to go through? You ever get a case where you can't issue an opinion to give the appeal, but you wish you could because after reading the circumstances of the case, it just doesn't look right to you?
Well, we always issue opinions unless it is not ripe. There are certain cases, they're called final appealable orders. We can only deal with final appealable orders. If it's not a final order, we have to send it back and say, finish up the case, then send it back to us. But unlike the old days where Court of Appeals judges could say yay or nay and not have to write an opinion, we do write opinions to explain it. What we try to do, though, is limit our opinions to the issues. We don't try to expand and go beyond what they've presented to us. That's the general rule.
So why run for a new office?
Because I think the Ohio Supreme Court needs somebody like me. And I had been asked to run for the Supreme Court even before I became a judge. And I have some sort of old-fashioned ideas that I think you need to have some judging experience before you sit on the state's highest court. I also wanted to make sure, because I loved being an attorney and helping people in trying cases, I wanted to make sure that moving up to, as we call it, the monastery, that I would enjoy it, and I absolutely enjoy what I do. So when I was approached last summer again to do this, I thought long and hard about it throughout the summer and did my research. And ironically, it was a Republican Chief Justice, the late Chief Justice Moyer, who helped me make the decision, because he gave an interview to the Columbus Dispatch, and he said, the whole idea behind having a multi-judge court, the Supreme Court has 7 justices that hear all the cases. See, in the Court of Appeals, we sit in 3-judge panels, and we rotate cases. We don't hear every case that comes. So the whole idea behind having a multi-judge court is to assure the Ohioans that that the judges have a background, a diversity of background, a diversity of experience, a diversity of philosophy, different points of view that all come to bear on that case. And he said the perception of Ohioans with an all-Republican court, which it was at that time, is that we don't have that. And I said to myself after reading it, I agree, and I'm the person to do it.